Don Lemon said,
That's a name I haven't heard for a while.
People love AOC, Jasmine Crockett, and Eric Swalwell. I think the Democratic Party should put people out there who the people want, who they're asking for. Is that a good strategy for the future of the left?
I'm not sure about that. Eric Swalwell was the one who was found banging Fang Fang, wasn't he? Do you remember that? Chinese spy Fang Fang. She infiltrated him.
Stop saying it like that.
No, Fang Fang. What's wrong with that?
Stop saying it.
He banged Fang Fang. Everyone knows that.
Okay.
Yeah, he was infiltrated by a Chinese Communist Party spy.
Okay. Sexually.
Very much so.
Okay.
And regrettably so. And that was a big national security breach. But yes, the others. Look, Don Lemon. Why? I mean, like asking to find sense in the entrails of a chicken. What's his analysis is of no value. And if the Democrats listened to him, they'd never be in power again. What?
Let's say that you were a advisor to the left, and in many ways, I imagine that you do have desires to have a burgeoning, flourishing left that doesn't make everybody sort of shudder and cringe in that way.
Yeah.
What would you advise them to do?
In America?
Yes.
Very straightforward one, which is you listen to your defeat and you learn from it and you work out what you did wrong. And I think they are, to some extent, my friends who are on the left in America, Democrats, the sensible ones are trying to do that. You'll notice that since the election in November last year, they've definitely changed their strategy a bit. When we haven't got Russia, and you're all Nazis so much. Mm-hmm. They're still doing it a bit, but not anywhere near as much. Partly because if your opponent has won the popular vote, it's tricky to pretend that the majority of people in America are Nazi supporters. The wiser Democrats realize that's not a good strategy.
Losing strategy.
Yeah. Don't insult the voters in their majority. Mm-hmm. They should learn from it. They should, and I think they are. I think this time around there's much less denial, and I mean that now the books are starting to come out as we knew they would be, explaining that actually, the Democrats kind of knew that Joe Biden wasn't there.
These expose, memoir-y, ex-house staffer people.
The people who spent the years of the Biden presidency assuring us that there's nobody who was a sharp attack in the box. And now they're all saying, oh, actually, he didn't know whether he was the president of the United States or the head of NATO and things like that. And so that stuff is starting to come out. And there'll be lots more, and they'll tear themselves apart for a bit. But the main problem for the Democrats is just they don't really have anyone leading the party. Mm-hmm. Chuck Schumer, when he made his deal with Trump on the budget the other week, immediately was the most hated person on the left, and even Pelosi criticized him on that. So it's hard to see who's really sort of leading the party.
It's not cohesive at the moment.
No, and so they should learn. I mean, my view is, if I was a Democrat advisor, strategist, mm-hmm. I would say what anyone would from observing them, which is they tacked very far to the crazy left, and the American public didn't want it, as indeed most publics don't. And they didn't want all their children to be transed, and they didn't want all of the crazy identity politics stuff that had gone just completely deranged. They also didn't want. I mean, the more sensible ones have already realized that it's a party, a very, very distinguished party with a considerable history. It's not a street movement. It's not a protest movement. Mm. I can't remember which one it was who the other week, I wrote about him in my column in the New York Post, who led a protest on a street in New York against Elon Musk. And I think it's probably the most illiterate speech I've ever heard, against some really quite stiff competition. And it ended up with him saying, "You take your Moscow money, you moo, 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 moo." Yeah.
Okay.
Not good.
Line for the ages.
Line for the ages. Cicero would have envied it. So the wiser ones will realize just that's not how you become serious again. You don't give in to the street protest people. Don't give in to the most radical people. There are really impressive people in the Democratic Party, but they're going to need to allow them to come up.
Tim Walz.
if I was a Republican strategist, I would tell the Democrats to keep going with Tim Walz.
The pinnacle of masculinity.
I mean, that's all that stuff is just a disaster. Everyone knows that he was a horrible candidate. Everyone knows that Kamala was a horrible candidate. You just got to find the talent and encourage it up. But they've got time. I don't think they should panic or start, But they do at some point have to have a coherent opposition to Trump and Trumpism.
Well, it certainly seems like one of the things that everybody's probably noticed. How much is the blowing with the wind that we're seeing at the moment of Mark Zuckerberg, not only a sartorial rebrand, but meta policy-based rebrand, getting rid of fact checkers and opening up conversations specifically around, I think, trans or gender identity was one of the points. And
I think what, as I understand it, what happened with Zuckerberg was that he discovered that, with whatever it is, 80,000 employees, you set up a philanthropic wing with like 1,000 employees. And then they spend all their time warring on the 80,000 people making money and derange the whole company. Mm-hmm. And so you get rid of it.
Well, you've seen that, right? Lots of different companies seeming to move in that direction. So BlackRock, they exited climate groups, eliminated diversity targets, ends its ESG stuff. Hegseth says he's eliminating DEI within the military. And then even European companies like Aldi and Santander are rolling back their DEI programs over here. So it does feel a lot like, I don't know, everyone's blowing with the Trumpian wind, whatever the sort of direction is that things are going in at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, I said to you many years ago, I'm sure, with Mad as a Crowd, I said, one of the problems with all of that stuff was, at some point it gets serious and the bridges start to fall down, I was never totally confident that if the bridges fell down because of DEI, that people wouldn't say that's just yet more evidence of the patriarchy. But it gets serious. It gets really serious at certain points. It gets really serious with the military. I'm very glad that Pete Hegseth is addressing that. You do want extremely tough, mainly men, at the forefront of your nation's military and your nation's defense. It's not about, to use the most perhaps hackneyed but most extraordinary one, it's not about that like CIA recruiting ad where the obese, diverse woman of color who explains how many mental disorders she has is necessarily your ideal poster child.
I didn't get to see.
Did you never get to see her?
I wasn't.
She was great. She was like a bipolar drone operator or something.
Okay, right. Well, the performance enhancing effects of different mental maladies, I guess, can work quite well in the military, but most of them would be, like psychopathy.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes,
but
you certainly don't want somebody on a lot of hormones in charge of a drone program.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting to see what the next sort of 2 years has in store, especially for what did the Democrats do in reversing some of the positions that caused them to sort of fall behind so much, how much faith has been lost. You know what it kind of feels like a little bit to me, the period that we had during COVID where kind of the veils fell from people's eyes a little around, the mainstream media don't really know what they're talking about, and they roll back their positions, and the institutions that are supposed to be in charge of this stuff and people that are supposed to know what's going on in terms of virology or epidemiology or public health or whatever. I actually think that that there's no adults in the room. I don't think there's any adults.
The thing is, there are. It's just what always happens is, something goes deranged in one direction, then you get a correction. But as we've discussed before, the question is always whether the correction goes back to level or whether it's an overcorrection that goes to somewhere equally crazy or recognizably crazy. Mm-hmm. Take that one of the COVID era and the post-COVID era. There's lots and lots of things that clearly went wrong. That doesn't mean, in my view, that you should discourage people from giving polio vaccines to their children. There's lots that has gone wrong in public health and lots that can be corrected, but it doesn't mean that there should be no guardrails in the society. Look at the way in which the term gatekeeper is used these days, as if there should be no gatekeeping. And actually, sometimes, people might disagree with this, but actually sometimes if there's somebody who's an expert in a field and they should be trusted and can be trusted, they do need to draw the line of what is within the parameters and what is not. That's obviously why RFK Jr. caused a lot of concern when he came in, was, is this a suitable correction or a wild overcorrection?
In other news, you've probably heard me talk about Element before, and that's because, frankly, I'm dependent on it. For the last 3 years, I've started my morning every single day with Element. It's a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need, nothing that you don't. It's got a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium with no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, or any other junk. And it plays a critical role in reducing muscle cramps and fatigue while optimizing brain health, regulating appetite, and curbing cravings. This orange flavor in a cold glass of water is like a beautiful, sweet, salty, orangey nectar, and it is the ultimate way to begin your day, and I genuinely feel the difference when I don't take it. Best of all, they've got a no questions asked refund policy, so you can buy it and try it, use the entire box, and if you don't like it, they'll just give you your money back, and you don't even need to return it. That's how confident they are that you'll love it. Right now, you can get a free sample pack of all 8 flavors with your first box by going to the link in the description below or heading to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. That's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. Would you look at that? Clip is already over, but if you want more, don't be sad. The full episode is available right here. Go on.